What is up, guys? The next Coolify service that we're going to be self-hosting is called Syncthing. Syncthing is an application that helps you synchronize files between two or more computers. And once we self-hosted it, it will look like this. You'll be able to add folders and add devices and then share those folders with those devices. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And let's get right into it. Let's go into Coolify and in the Projects tab, hit the Add button. We're going to create a new project. I'm going to call it Syncthing. Then search for the resource and we're going to type in Syncthing. If you just started with Coolify, you will only have one server. I recommend at least setting up a second server so that your apps are on your second server and not on your Coolify server. But anyways, we are pretty much done. Let's edit the link here just to shorten it, make it easier to use. So hit save when you're done. Close that. Now we're almost finished. Before we hit deploy here, let's hit edit compose file and view the volumes. And the problem here is that the volume where the folders are actually going to be created on is this one, and it's mapped to be a Docker volume. And what that means is it's not actually going to be accessible on the host computer. Well, it's going to be managed by Docker. In my case, I prefer to be able to add those files directly in the host computer. So I don't want it to be managed by Docker. So we're going to replace this one and we're going to do something like this. Type bind, and we're going to need a source and a target. The source is going to be volumes config, and the target is going to be just /config, as you can see here. And the source is not going to be a Docker volume, so it's not going to be this. So let's remove that. It's going to be an actual path on our host. And I'll show you where that path is. So let's hit save, close that. Now I'm going to copy this, which is our service. Well, this is the Docker ID of our service. And I'll open up a terminal in a new tab and just show you where this volume is going to be. So I'm going to connect to my server. And then now on my server, I'm going to cd to data/coolify/services, and then you're going to paste in the Docker ID here, the ID of the container. And so now we are in the location of our service, so I can cd into the volumes, which is the volume we've just created. And for now, it just has the config folder that we just set up. So let's hit deploy. So our container has started. I'm going to close this window and wait for the service to be green. And once it's green, we'll visit it in a new tab. I'm going to open it up in a new tab since it just turned green. And here we go. We have successfully self-hosted Syncthing. And so now the first danger message here that we see is because we need to set a password. Otherwise, anybody can have access to this. So click the settings, then go into GUI, and then enter in a username and password. And once you've hit save, it'll prompt you to log in. So go ahead and do that. And now, as you can see, the message has disappeared. So our service is now secure. So right here, you can see there's one default folder right here in config, which is should be in here now. So if I go into cd config, and as you can see, there is the sync folder and a bunch of other files that have been added by the service. If we were to add another folder here, and this is the reason why we added this configuration in the first place, let's say I call it test. You can see here the folder path is /config. I can hit save. And now this test folder has been created. And if I were to ls in here again, you can see it right there. So the reason, again, why I like to do this is so that if I wanted to add files directly into this folder, I'd be able to do that without having to use an interface or anything like that. That's pretty much it. I will just mention that you need to install this. So you need to install Syncthing on a second computer, and then you'll be able to go into Actions and hit Show ID so that you can have your ID, your device ID that you need to use to add to the first service. So let's say I had two services, both need to have Syncthing installed, and then on the first one you hit add remote device, and you add in the device ID and the name, and that way you can then connect to it, and then you share specific folders with it so that it synchronizes. So that's going to be it. If you're new here, this is a Coolify service playlist where I go through every single Coolify service. And if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.